Hey guys, and welcome to Ozzie Reviews and welcome to March Q A. Now guys, we'll start off with what's new here at Ozzie Reviews. Now unfortunately we've had a lot of rain in one respect. It's been bad because it's delayed a lot of the reviews. Now my shooting area where I sight in my firearms for review, it's a fair bit of mud and slush because obviously we've got some big hills all converging down, and it really holds the water. So anyhow, hopefully this will clear up. I think it's another couple of days of this that they reckon that we're going to have it. So I've got one of the new Marlin 336W tacticals. Okay, so it's a lever action, all black. Basically, they've got the M-lock fore end on it, so if you want to be able to put a light or some sort of attachment at the front end there, you can do it. So obviously that's in 30-30, so it's sort of a bit of a modernized version of your typical sort of 30-30. So I'm really looking forward to reviewing that. Also too, this is quite exciting to me. There's a dealer slash armorer that's approached me about AR-15 triggers. Now he's obviously making them right here in Australia, and would like obviously me to have a look at one. Now why I'm excited about this is obviously because with our import laws and so forth, it's very difficult for some people to import obviously an AR trigger. Mainly for those of you who have a firearm that takes an AR trigger on a Category B license, such as the Warwick Arms or like Wedgetail Industries, straight pull ARs. So you can't import that because the import laws, they just say that yep, it's for obviously a Category C or D firearm, therefore you can't import it. So unless obviously you are eligible to import a C or D firearm part. So, I just think it's an absolutely fantastic and innovative idea, and I'm really looking forward to, putting one, through its evaluation there. So he has asked me not to sort of give any details at this stage until he delivers the trigger to me. But I'm very, very keen to look for that, guys. So this is a two-stage proper AR trigger. So those of you who, suffer your clunky, standard GI type AR triggers, whether it's in like a Warwick Arms firearm or any of the other straight pulls, or even in like Cat C ARs or obviously your Cat D ARs, this is going to be a solution from what I can see right here in Australia. So I'm very excited about obviously having an opportunity to review that. So it's going to be exclusive to me. This guy said that he doesn't want anybody else to review it at this stage. He wants me to be the first cab off the rank with it. So I feel very privileged to do that. So keep an eye out for that, guys, because I'm biting at the bit to do that. Now, what else? I hope that basically you guys, took note of the last video and you really got people out to the range and, just encouraging people to get into our sport and our hobby. So that video is fairly well received. So if you like those sort of videos, guys, let me know, comment below, and and I'll often, sit and do a video where I talk about, a few thoughts on the current climate and just things in general. Okay, so let's get into this month's questions. So first up, the question I got here is from Matthew. He goes, hi Ozzie, my name's Matt and I'm from New South Wales. I haven't got my gun licence yet, but looking to very soon, and wanted to know the best calibre and rifle to get. I'm sure you've done a video on this, but I'm just asking again. Thanks, and I love the channel. Well mate, yes, that's probably one of the most common questions I get, and therefore I did a beginner series to help people like yourself to be able to get into shooting and make an informed decision on what sort of rifle setup they want. So there's a video there on choosing the correct centerfire rifle scope and caliber, and also correct rimfire rifle scope and caliber as well. So because I don't know what you want to do with it, so the main things are that you'll see that I'll cover in that video in a lot more greater detail is what are you using it for? Like, are you just wanting to go the range and have a bit of fun? Are you wanting to actually go hunting? Do you want a combination of hunting and range use? Where will you be shooting from? Will you be shooting from the back of a ute, or you be lying prone, or just sitting at a bench at the range? Or do you want a rifle and scope set up that you can sling over the shoulder and be able to take for a long walk, you know, when you're trying to basically stalk game? So, you know, so there's those sort of things that you need to take into consideration. Have a look at those videos, mate, because they will really help you. Next question I got here is from Josh, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, I finally got my Kriss Defiance the other day, and it's a fantastic rifle and lots of fun. Just wondering what sling you would recommend for it." Okay, mate, so I use the Magpul MS3, okay, so it's a clip single attachment there, and I also combine that with the Magpul ASAP sling adapter. So that's an ambidextrous sling adapter. So why I like that is because basically, like when I carry my Kriss around, like it's slung and it's just right in front of me here, because basically the sling goes, you know, under the arm, like over the neck, and you can change it for whatever you are, left or right handed, or whatever's comfortable for you. And it holds the rifle slung nicely here. So if you're out shooting and you need to be able to obviously have both hands free, well, you can just sling the rifle there, you know, and you can, you know, cut like whatever it is, like game or whatever you've shot, and use your hands freely, you know, and have the rifle just slung. The other advantage to it as well is obviously, you know, it's ambidextrous. So if you need to come up and you know, you're on, you go to take a shot, or you may have to change to left-handed if you're right-handed, depending on the situation, you can do that. You know, it's really good for that. So yeah, I highly recommend it, mate. Have a look at the MS3 from Magpul, and also the Magpul ASAP sling adapter, because they work very, very well with the AR-15 platform. Next question I got here is from Matt, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, I think in the January Q&A you answered my question about fireproof safes. You mentioned that Lockaway was a good middle-of-the-road brand. Just out of interest, what is the top-of-the-range safe brands to look at that are available here in Australia? Cheers, mate." Well, CMI is a really good brand. Now, the CMI safes used to always be made here in Australia. I believe they've put them offshore at the moment, but have a look at that. So that's CMI, and also Jorgensen safes, or Jorgensen as some people say. Now that's spelt Jorgensen. Okay, so they're made here in Queensland. Very high quality safes. So, you know, have a look at you know, some of them as well, mate. So yeah, they're probably the two favorites that I have. Obviously you can get Chubb safes, you know, some like bank safes and that are made here in Australia. You know, you obviously get them second hand and everything. Keep an eye out for them. I don't know what they're sort of making nowadays. I haven't really sort of kept up with Chubb, but yeah, CMI or Jorgensen safes there, I really like myself. Next question I got here is from Rory, and he says, "Hi Ozzie, regarding the recent weapons licensing changes, what's your thoughts on creating a few generic email templates that members of the firearms community could use when messaging our local representatives to ensure that we are sending a unified message and we're not contradicting ourselves? Keep up the good work." Well, mate, Shooters Union did something very similar to this. Like, you know, they've actually got the Shooters Union app there, and it actually put you in touch with your local member by simply, you know, putting in your address or your suburb there, and then it brought up all the local details. So it was sort of along the lines of that, but it wasn't an actual email template. There's two trains of thought there on the email template. Whilst I've done a lot of them in the past, the issue is when they get used and they get sent off to these local members, they go, "Oh yeah, all of a sudden we're getting a few of these." So they might get, say, like 100, right, in their particular area. So all they do is go, "Yeah, well, how good's this? We can just do the generic response back." So there's another train of thought. If you write individual emails, yes, it's from a different point of view, but it also gets an individually different response 9 times out of 10. But what I found, you know, in recent times is just to try to, you know, shut shooters up, is they just come back with this just absolutely generic response, no matter how different your letter is. And that's where most shooters will actually sit on their hands and go, "Oh, well, I've written a letter, I got a response, that's it." Well, no. That's when you write back and say, "Well, you haven't addressed any of my issues. I'd like responses on X, Y, Z." You see what I mean? Like, there's so many people that just, you know, it's like they try to just put a tick in the box. you know, to say, yeah, I've done something, when really they know that it's not to the best of their ability. You know, and this is the problem in the whole firearms world. So many people want to say, oh, what's the point? Or they just want to write off because they're too lazy to go the whole way. They're too selfish to give up hours, weeks, months, whatever, of their own time to pursue a future for their hobby and their passion by going out and doing some real grassroots activism. I'll say that again, activism. So, you know, that's the thing I find. You know, people aren't active enough, and they've got to get out there and be an activist for their you know, sport and hobby to actually get the results. I mean, look at me, for example, like, you know, running the channel, and most of you guys know the reason why I did that is because, you know, I had enough of the negativity. I wanted to bring more people into the shooting and the firearms world. You know, like, it's been going for 9 years now. 9 years I've given up my free time, you know, and I'm still going. You know, I'll still do it as long as I can, but it becomes a lifestyle change. Like, if you change your life and start focusing and putting aside dedicated time to fight for your passion and your belief, that's when you'll get changes. And a lot of people say, oh, well, what changes have we had? Well, I can talk about the federal import laws because I had a lot to do with that many years ago, and there was quite a few sensible changes made there, and that was just grassroots activism. Okay, so that's my thoughts on that, mate. I hope all that makes sense. Next question I got here is from Peter, and he says, hi Ozzie, I want to shoot rabbits on my small rural block, but I don't want to use high velocity 22 ammo. Can you recommend a lower noise 22 LR round suitable for the job? I was thinking something like CCI Quiet or Winchester Zs. Okay, I probably wouldn't use them for rabbits, mate. Usually because, you know, they are very low noise, but they're also very, very low velocity, and I'm talking way under subsonic, you know, rounds as they normally are. So I would be looking at just using subsonic rounds. If you want something with a slightly bit of less noise but don't want to go right down to Zs, because what I'm thinking, you know, with rabbits and everything, mate, you do want to have that enough knockdown for a humane kill. Have a look at CCI suppressor. Now they make that with a 45 grain hollow point. Okay, so 45 grain hollow point at that subsonic speed gives you enough retained energy as what a high velocity using the 40 grain hollow point will, if that makes sense. Okay, so it's a little bit slower, but you got 5 grains more in weight of that projectile. They are just fantastic, you know, on rabbits, obviously with the correct shot placement, because you're trying to shoot them basically in the head, so it's instant. You know, try that. If you don't want to use them, just any subsonics, you know, like there's a heap from RWS, CCI, you know, Winchester, you know, try them and just see what works the best in your rifle. But just make sure it's hollow point, because that's one of the mistakes I find that a lot of people make. And I'm not saying you, because I don't know obviously of your shooting experience, but a lot of people make the mistake where, you know, they'll buy like subsonics, but they don't buy hollow points, they buy solids. And, you know, the solids don't do the job. They just go bang and punch straight through that animal without opening up and expanding and creating that temporary wound cavity and making that humane kill. So please make sure that they're hollow points that you get. Next question I got here is from David, and he says, hi Oz, I'm looking for a rifle and caliber setup specifically for taking foxes out to a few hundred meters. Can you give me some recommendations? Thanks. Dave, I'd probably say first of all, like, what's your, I'm assuming you're going to be shooting from like a ute, are you? Or you're going to be, you know, I guess like lying prone or just sitting, whistling and bringing them in. So where I'm going with this is most probably you'd be looking at like a varminter type setup. Yeah, decent sort of scope, reasonably heavy barrel. I don't know what your budget is. However, mate, I'd be looking at like a Ticker T3X in like 223. I mean, look, if you want to go 204 Ruger, you know, you could do that, but for the cheaper price of ammo for the 223 and out to a couple of hundred meters, dead is dead. There's no fox that, you know, is going to stand up to a 223 at a couple hundred meters, you know, that the 204 can't do, or vice versa. Okay, I'm just thinking sort of budget wise, I'd probably stick to the 223. You know, have a look at the yeah, T3X, you know, in like a varmint type setup. That's what I'd be looking at. If that's probably out of your price range, I mean, you know, look at some of the cheaper brands out there. Like you could just go for like a Ruger American. You know, nothing wrong with them. You use the correct ammo in them and they just shoot brilliantly. Like when I reviewed the standard Ruger American in 223, you know, using those 55 grain Sierra Game Kings loaded from Buffalo River, or, you know, OSA here in Australia, absolutely fantastic. The accuracy out of that was just insane. So yeah, out at a couple 100 meters, I mean, you shoot a fox with one of them, mate, it's game over. So yeah, that's my recommendation on it, not knowing, you know, a little bit more details on your circumstances. Next question I got here is from Ben. He says, "Hi Ozzie, we have some issues with wild dogs on our 1,000-acre sheep property. Can you offer some advice for handling them from traps to preferred rifle setup?" Yeah, I can imagine, mate. If you've got a sheep property there, dogs are a major concern. You know, obviously apart from fencing to try to protect the stock there, you've really got to take some proactive steps to prevent those losses, because, you know, as you will probably know, once you get a couple of dogs in amongst those sheep, you know, you'll lose 30, 40 sheep, no dramas at all. So, look, I steer away from traps because obviously I come from a feral pest control business point of view, you know. So when I was engaged to do that sort of thing, the farmer is engaging me to take maximum numbers in a single encounter. You know, they're not engaging me to, you know, basically set a trap, a day later come back and there's like one dog there, you know. So for me, what I found is, like, I use lures. So when I say lures, you know, like it's a mixture of, you know, dog and heat urine, like skunk and all that sort of stuff. You can go to like Western Trapping Supplies here in Queensland, they've got it. And, you know, you put it out and obviously, you know, the dogs will come into it, so you can wait there for them. And I'm assuming, you know, if you've got a 1,000-acre sheep property there, I'm assuming you've got your Cat C or D license. If not, why not? I'd definitely be applying for it. That way, you know, you can sit there, even if you're limited to, like, say, Cat C. So say you have a semi-auto 22 Magnum, like, you know, 9-10 round magazine there. You get a couple of dogs that come in, you know, you've got a couple of backup shots there, and they can come right into, you know, around about like that 75 to 125 yards. And the 22 Magnum will be ample for taking them at that distance. So with obviously correct shot placement and using the correct ammunition. So that's something that I'd be looking at doing, and that'd be my preferred method, because traps are very time consuming, you know, for very little yield. Poisoning, I also don't go down that track because, you know, basically, mate, you know, I find it very inhumane myself, and you also don't know what else has taken those baits. Is a goanna coming along and taking the baits? Is something else taking those baits and then something else eating the carcass? Or what I've found with baited dogs as well is they get thirsty and they immediately head for water. The next minute you got a contaminated dog in your water supply that you use for your stock. So that's why, for me, I don't find that suitable at all. So yeah, lures, correct rifle there, you know, Cat C or D, that's why it's permitted for primary production. You've got the avenue to apply for it if you don't already have it. Use the correct, you know, setup there, shot placement, all the rest of it, and you know, you'll be fine. So, Hank, sit. Sorry, guys. Dog just come running up to me here. Come here, mate. Come here. Come on. Come here. Make a little guest appearance here. All right, settle down. He just gets excited. He's still a pup and just comes running straight up and just basically tries to bowl me over. And it's time to play, you know, so most inappropriate time. So, all right, so yeah, I hope that's answered your question, mate. Last question I got here is from Lisa. So yeah, it's good to have some females commenting, you know, obviously in the Q&A and taking part. So Lisa says here, "Hi Ozzie, I want to thank you for making the recipe videos as I cooked the Hokkien noodle rabbit stir fry that you did a video on. I also used your how to skin and prepare a rabbit for the table video. It was such a great feeling doing this from start to finish, and seeing my family enjoying the results. Any chance of some more recipe videos?" Well, thanks very much, Lisa. I appreciate that. I mean, I know it's not as strong a following, you know, as what obviously the firearm reviews are, but, you know, it's still got a decent following there. I mean, that rabbit video is like my top video now. You know, we're almost at 1 million views alone just on that. So yes, I do want to do a couple more videos. I've got a few other recipes and things like that that I want to you know, share with you, and also some more exotic stuff as well. So something to really you know, get people interested that's not your normal type of I guess recipe and meat that you would use, you know, just something a little bit different for people to try and hopefully experience. So yeah, definitely I've got more in the process there. Okay guys, so that concludes this month's Q&A. So look, thanks very much to everyone who submits the questions, and also thanks very much for those guys who support me on Patreon. I mean, you know, I've got hundreds of people that support me on Patreon, you know, and I've got like maybe 5% that submit questions, you know, because you guys are just happy just to show a bit of support. And look, I greatly appreciate it. It certainly helps me, you know, continue on and obviously stay independent, because I don't have to rely on companies for anything. And that's what I like to be able to do, you know. So the reviews are independent, and you get the truth with what is actually the performance of that particular product. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it, and we'll catch you on the next review.